Welcome to the session. So this session is designed to inform you about the teaching assistant apprenticeship, the curriculum, and some recent changes that we've been making to our curriculum, and to gather feedback and just any input to develop our curriculum, make sure it's meeting the needs of employers, basically. So any feedback that you've got or any ideas would be really helpful, but hopefully you'll find it really beneficial in what you need as well. So yeah, really appreciate your participation and feedback. Obviously, because it's a small session, feel free to ask questions throughout, but there'll be plenty of opportunities at the end as well. So first of all, so you said apprenticeships are quite new to you, is that right?
Yeah.
So just an overview is hopefully quite useful to have an overview of what an apprenticeship is. So basically an apprenticeship is a learning program where apprentices can learn while they earn a wage. So their learning is completed within a workplace. Apprenticeships have a set structure. So every apprenticeship will have something called an apprenticeship standard. This consists of knowledge, skills, and behaviours that need to be completed and assessed throughout the apprenticeship. So the main focus throughout is developing all the knowledge, skills, and behaviours that a teaching assistant, in this case, for example, will need to know to be the best they can in their role. There's maths and English functional skills, which are part of every apprenticeship. So if an apprentice hasn't already achieved the equivalent, so it would be either GCSE grade C or 4 or above, or a functional skills qualification level 2, then they need to complete maths and English while they're on programme. So obviously we look at that case by case on what apprentices need to complete. There's also something called off-the-job training, which we can go through in a bit more detail. But it's basically for a full-time apprentice who's doing 30 hours or more per week. They need to be able to dedicate 6 hours of their working time basically to the apprenticeship. That doesn't necessarily need to be time out of the class. That can be time spent in the class, contributing to new knowledge, skills, and behaviours. So it could be shadowing or observing something within the classroom setting, could be working with a mentor, reading policies and procedures. It's not just time out of the room or out of the class. So it is basically anything that's contributing to new knowledge, skills, and behaviours within the working hours of the apprentice, basically. We can give lots of support and ideas to apprentices and employers as well on how to cover those off-the-job hours. And we just need to make sure that that is met over a period of time. So it's an average of 6 hours per week that needs to be completed, and there'll be a set number of hours that need to be completed by the end of the apprenticeship. So once all of that is done, so it's basically the apprenticeship standard, the maths and English if they require it, the off-the-job training hours. Once that's all done, the training provider, so us as the training provider, the employer and the apprentice all meet and have something called a gateway meeting. And this is where we confirm that the apprentice is ready for endpoint assessment, that they're working at the standard of all the knowledge, skills, and behaviours, and that they're ready to go through and pass that endpoint assessment, basically. The endpoint assessment window is then a 3-month window that the apprentice has where they complete the endpoint assessment methods. They're completed by an external endpoint assessor, and I'll go through a bit more detail about what the endpoint assessment is for the teaching assistant apprenticeship as we go through. So that's the basics of what an apprenticeship overall will look like. With our teaching assistant apprenticeship, it's a 15-month programme. So an apprentice can usually complete, if they're on a full-time programme, can complete early. So within 12 months, they will be able to complete, but we allow them 15 months funded on programme. That will be extended if they work part-time hours. So we figure that out, and they're predicted, so their end date is extended based on part-time hours. So we figure that out based on apprentices' different hours. There's then 3 months EPA, so endpoint assessment window. So once they've completed that 15 months on programme, they then go into endpoint assessment, and then they're given 3 months that they can then complete that. As I've mentioned, the functional skills, maths and English is a requirement. So that's the same for any apprenticeship of this level. They would need level 2 functional skills, maths and English. Our programme is delivered in cohorts, so we have learners who all start in one group and then they continue on the programme together, so attending the same group sessions all together, and that's quite nice for developing their confidence because they're normally in similar groups. They've been on the sessions with the same learners, so some of the same learners have attended before, so it just helps to help them engage a bit more because they're attending these sessions with learners that have been on previous sessions with them as well. And they're all delivered in order. So we've sequenced the programme in an order that's logical for what a typical learner would need to know at set points. The new programme, so I've recently, as I say, I've been updating it for September. So I've designed a new version of the curriculum. And what we've done is we've tried to keep it as simple as possible with 11 group teaching sessions. So we did used to have a few more. We used to have, I think, 14 teaching sessions. But what we were finding was that then that was sometimes holding learners back if they were if they wanted to complete early, we'd either have to find a different way for them to catch up with the sessions, or they might miss one of the later ones if they're a very keen learner. So we've reflected on our programme, we've redesigned it so that there's fewer sessions so that we can then make sure that they all get that teaching. And then the last few months on programme is then that individual and one-to-one support with their tutor.
Are they delivered online or face to face? Or are you going to come up? You're going to come on to that bit, aren't you?
So it's a you've asked that exactly the right time, which is good. So it's a blended program. So the tutors do a mix of face-to-face and remote visits, and they can do the reviews based on the learner needs, really. So whether they need a bit more face-to-face or if they need a bit more remote, they tend to do a mix of both. The sessions are online, so the group teaching sessions are delivered online. We have a couple of tutors that deliver these who are experts, so ex-teachers who are delivering the teaching sessions, very experienced and knowledgeable, and they focus on teaching the webinars specifically. So those ones are all online, and the benefit of that is that we can then capture learners from all types of different schools and across the country as well. They get to chat with people that they wouldn't otherwise get a chance to, so I think it's quite nice to have that mix.
It's for like the national groups. However, if you're doing a private closed group, then there will be taught sessions with a tutor in your hosted school.
Brilliant. No, thanks, Rebecca, because yeah, that's thanks for jumping in, because that's kind of, yeah, obviously relevant, isn't it? So going back to the tutor support, the tutors will complete progress reviews every 6 weeks. The legal requirement is actually every 12 weeks. We make sure that we go above and beyond with that and make sure that we do that more regularly to support accelerating that learner progress. And we make sure that we work with employers to get that employer engagement within those reviews. So we'll just need to be working with teachers and mentors and so on to make sure that we get that involvement and that engagement throughout the programme and those progress reviews. We have specialist tutor support, so the tutors will give support within the apprenticeship, but also if required we have additional support that we can provide, such as with maths and English. We also have a programme called BPN Boost, which is our personal development, career information, advice and guidance and welfare programme. So we run various monthly sessions. So we've done some recently, for example, on mental health and wellbeing, resilience building. We've got really good feedback from learners on these so far. And these are basically to support apprentices' well-being, apprentices' career development, their confidence. So they're focused on not just working in a school, but also their own kind of development. So when we did resilience building, we focused on them developing their own resilience as an individual. Got lots of great feedback actually from apprentices who said that it had really helped them to reflect on their own resilience and things they could do to develop that. But we also look a little bit at how to support that within education and what can be done in the classroom too to support that. But that's really seems to be benefiting learners who've attended those so far. And we also have independent resources that they can use. So just thought it's good to mention that because that is part of our programme that we offer. We also encourage regular reflection throughout the programme. Apprentices will be encouraged to keep regular CPD logs and journals to make sure that they're keeping up to date with their reflection, making sure that they're reflecting on their learning. And as I mentioned, really, there's a strong partnership between us as the training provider, the apprentice and the employer. So it is important for us that we get the employer engagement to make sure that we support every apprentice to develop as the best that they can, really. So this slide just has a bit more about the employer requirements. So what we expect from employer is for either a mentor or manager to be able to attend, so whether that's the class teacher or a designated mentor within the school, to be able to attend the learning reviews, to allow the apprentices the time to attend their monthly webinars. We provide a schedule at the very beginning of the apprenticeship. So this is for obviously for our general delivery. I expect if it was a closed cohort, it might be that we work very closely with you and planning that. For our typical webinars, we just make sure that we provide the dates well in advance so that that can then be arranged for them to have time out of class to attend the webinars. And we also normally provide, and it may differ depending on the groups and what's agreed, but we for our typical groups, we tend to offer a AM and PM session so that they've got options that work for different schools, but it may differ slightly on what we agree with you if you're to go with a closed group. Another requirement is, as I mentioned, the off-the-job training to make sure that 6 hours per week for a full-time apprentice, or it's actually 20% for a part-time learner if they're working hours, to make sure they're given that time that they can be working on things that are developing new knowledge, skills and behaviours relevant to the apprenticeship, basically. So, as I said, we can support with ideas of how to make sure that that requirement is met. To provide the apprentice with a mentor, so make sure that they have a mentor, that they know who they are, that they are given that ongoing support and guidance, that they're given regular feedback as well throughout their programme. And just giving opportunities for apprentices to develop the knowledge, skills and behaviours. So if there's an area that the apprentice isn't currently having the opportunity to develop, just identifying opportunities where they might be able to go and to develop that knowledge or skill, for example. So I'll just show you our curriculum modules, just let them pop up. So this is the modules that we've got in the programme and the order. Hopefully you can see all of that. So that's the order that they are delivered in. So we've started with the new build, started with professional relationships and the role of the TA. So I think from the very beginning, we just want to instill in them a deep understanding of what their roles and responsibilities should be, how to behave professionally, what their responsibilities really should be. There'll be some safeguarding within that as well. We try and embed safeguarding into as much as we can, really. But yeah, just getting them used to what the role is and how to behave professionally. We then start off quite early on with safeguarding, health and safety, and it covers quite a lot on the legal requirements within safeguarding and health and safety, and then going on to sort of learning and development, understanding child and young person development, going on to the curriculum, supporting the learning environment, pedagogy and sort of teaching strategies, extending learning. We've got quite a lot on meeting children's individual needs. So supporting, in particular, that topic focuses on special educational needs and disabilities, but also supporting any child's individual need, how to adapt and make sure every child's individual needs are met. We go on to assessment, supporting positive behaviour and wellbeing. And then the final webinar that we will provide is then on endpoint assessment preparation. We will give guidance, and tutors do give guidance throughout the programme, but then we've got that focus webinar on endpoint assessment at the end. Also, we make sure that we've got regular recap and recall modules planned into the programme. So this is opportunities for the apprentice to have discussions with their tutor to recap and discuss the different topics they've covered so far. So for example, at say month 3 or 4, they may do a discussion which covers professional relationships, safeguarding and health and safety. Then at month 6, they may do a discussion that covers the next couple in addition to those, and it's just continuously revisiting. So it's not that they're completing a piece of work and it's signed off and forgotten about. They're giving that continuous opportunity to revisit. And regular observations as well. As you'll see in a minute, observation is a part of the endpoint assessment. So we just make sure that they have regular opportunities for observation. We also, in addition to the tutor support and the webinars, we do have a online platform called Canvas, which apprentices use. So this is our virtual learning environment. We use it as kind of an online classroom sort of textbook, really. So it's for independent learning. We have all the modules available on there, and apprentices can then go in as they're completing their learning and use the bank of resources. There's things like videos, web links, bits of information to read. There's lots of information on there. In addition to that, we have these subject specialisms, which apprentices will be able to complete. So they will choose and select a subject specialism. So obviously looking at the ones on there, they need to choose the one that is relevant to them and going to support them in their role. So the SEND one in particular is a very common interest and a popular one. But they've got that opportunity to then choose their subject specialism. They complete the specialism on Canvas, and then they receive a certificate for that from us once they've completed the specialism. And then just having a quick look at the endpoint assessment. So the endpoint assessment, so once they're in EPA in the 3-month window, so they've had their gateway meeting, confirmed that they're ready for endpoint assessment, they will then have 2 endpoint assessment methods. So one of them is an observation with questioning. So the endpoint assessor comes out to the school and will observe the learner in the classroom. That it will need to be well planned. So the tutor works with the apprentice to make sure they know what needs to be planned and how they can plan for that, so that everything gets observed that needs to. And then there is also a professional discussion, which is underpinned by a portfolio of evidence. So the assessor will allow the apprentice mainly to lead the discussion, talking about their experience and give their own examples. They ask a certain number of questions to prompt and to extend the discussion, but the apprentice has a portfolio of evidence of things that they've put together and completed throughout the programme, so that then they can talk about those in their discussion.
Right.
So I'll just go back. This is just looking a little bit at the career progression that apprentices can have. So this is just a visual of our teaching assistant level 3 apprenticeship pathway. So as you can see, once the learner has completed their teaching assistant level 3 apprenticeship, they can then go on to a fast track version of the HTLA programme. So we're currently in talks to just make sure that we identify how that's structured and make sure that that we plan that. So we're currently just looking at how that will work. But they can have a fast track version of the HTLA programme from there. And then obviously there is the option they could go on to the postgraduate teacher apprenticeship as well. So we've got this visual pathway here. We've also got a link on the slides, which I can send out. So that's just quite a good visual, just to show that it doesn't have to be that they complete the apprenticeship and then finish there. There's that career progression for them within the school, and we can support them with that as well. So I've just got one slide just on special education needs and disabilities, just to talk to you about, because we are just looking at what we can do to enhance that within our programme. If you've got any suggestions of anything that you think would be useful within that topic, then we're very open to suggestion on this. At the moment, we've got the Canvas specialism, as I've mentioned, which is a very popular one, which has around 6 hours of focused independent learning relating to special educational needs and disabilities. Our new programme covers SEND quite a lot throughout the programme. So within the modules, in particular, learning and development, supporting the learning environment, use of technology, meeting children's individual needs. And we just make sure that that is a theme that kind of runs through. There's quite a few different modules that cover this. So at the moment, there's that opportunity for apprentices to delve into this as a topic that I know a lot of apprentices are quite interested in. Obviously, if there's any further suggestions that you've got relating to special educational needs and disabilities, then let us know on that. So this was just, and whether or not this applies to you, I don't know, so you'll just have to let me know if this is useful, but this is our links that we've got on supporting you to recruit an apprentice. So I have included the links here on the vacancy form, so we can support with recruiting apprentices. If you have a vacancy for a new role, then our sales team can support and work with you and advertise the vacancy, and on the government's Find an Apprenticeship site. So we've got the links on there for that. We also do have the link on the last slide. Just go forward to the last one. There's a link to the applications. So there's links to how apprentices can make applications. Rebecca, I'm not sure, I don't know that much about how it works within partnerships. Is there a different process for that?
Yeah, we've created a landing page with an application form on there that's going to go into a partnership area, and then when they do the application, they'll choose which trust they're with so that they get put into the right one, and we'll make sure that anybody in that area kind of gets, if they've not done that, then we'll ask them if they were meant to be in one of the closed groups, so that we get anyone that's not done it, that's not done it correctly. But yeah, there is another process that Eve will be able to go through with you in a little bit more detail.
Brilliant. And actually, that was my question. You've just put up on the screen. One of the questions is, what does a teaching assistant level 3 get paid? And obviously, what's the funding there? So I can see that there. So that's great.
This is the funding. So it's a well, it's £7,000 for the apprenticeship. I'm guessing as a trust that you would pay into the levy. Yeah. So this is basically, that would then come out of the apprenticeship levy, and it's the £7,000 so it's basically £7,000 out of the levy per apprenticeship for the teaching assistants. That was mainly everything that that we had to present to you. Obviously, if there's any more questions, we're happy to answer them. But other than that, it'd be good to get some of your feedback. So if there's anything additional you think could be included, as I've said, you're welcome to have a think, speak with some people and send us some further information. That'd be absolutely fine. If there's anything obvious you think is really good, or anything obvious you think is missing at the moment, then that'd be good to get your feedback. And yeah, just any questions or additional feedback would be great.